All right, y'all. So we're going to talk about this because, HIV, herpes, STDs in general, it's related to nightlife stuff because a lot of you guys, y'all be out here doing some crazy stuff in the nightlife, man. As a DJ, I see it. And I think a lot of you dudes and y'all females, y'all need to be careful out here, man.
Well, for the first time in decades, HIV infections are on the rise here in Chicago. They jumped about 29% between 2022 and in 2024. Joining me this morning to discuss this is Dr. Anu Hazra. He's an associate professor of medicine at the University of Chicago, specializing in infectious diseases. Thanks so much for your time this morning.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the headline here. What is driving this increase, and are you seeing any patterns that could be leading
What's
to this
driving the
rise in
increase is
cases?
people just being reckless out here, people being stupid as fuck.
I think people have a lot of potential hypotheses of why we're seeing about a 30% increase for the past 2 years.
Like and subscribe.
I think the biggest impact factor is
Anaruda Hazra. Did I say his name right?
COVID, and understanding that a lot of folks were disengaged from medical care, from continuity care, from preventative care during a really disabling time. And now
what are you
we're
talking
sort of
about
seeing,
preventative care? How about they just stop sticking their dick in these females and these females stop opening up their legs without condoms? I don't understand that. Condoms are not that expensive, y'all. If y'all can buy a whole pack of Zelle, you can buy some condoms.
Occurred about 6 years ago. And then the other thing to note is about half of these new infections, of the 800 plus new infections, are in Latinx populations. And so trying to understand how we can increase or improve services to more marginalized populations.
Black and brown people always get hit the most, bro. It's crazy. It's crazy how black and brown people have the higher rates, but white people have a higher population than everybody combined. It's crazy. There's a correlation to that, y'all.
City is super important.
What does that process look like? Because you pointed out the sharp rise, especially in Latino populations. So how do you get the message out?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is community-based outreach. A lot of it, which is, has been in the past federally funded or state-funded work done by really great community organizations that are embedded across these populations that may not have the best access to healthcare, but making sure they have access to preventative options and treatment options.
Preventative options is just be abstinent. Just don't have sex. But people have to have sex, and if they do, they don't like using condoms or anything like that. So that's their fucking fault. I just hope that one day somebody like that doesn't find their way into your lives, that is not being safe, out here just being reckless, not getting checked, which if you have health insurance, which you should, honestly, if you can't afford health insurance, it should be illegal for you to even have sex. It should be like a federal crime for you to have sex if you're not paying health insurance.
Here in Chicago, you mentioned about 30% or so. Is this something that's just a Chicago issue? Or is there something that we're also seeing in other big cities across the country?
Unfortunately, Chicago is not unique in this sort of trend. New York City released their HIV trend numbers just about a month or two ago, showing very similar sort of drifting upwards or rise in new infections, again, particularly in marginalized populations, both racially and ethnically marginalized populations.
At this point, what does testing and treatment for HIV look like, and has it changed in recent years?
Yeah, I mean, I think the treatment for HIV has transformed over the past, 4 decades in general. The treatment for HIV medically is actually quite straightforward. The majority, if not all individuals, are on single tablet regimens or long-acting injections. It's the stigma related to the diagnosis, the stigma related to testing, the stigma related to any mention of the disease process or infection that is the biggest obstacle or barrier to link folks or even engage folks in care.
Let me tell y'all something real quick, and I don't mean to cut him off, but he mentioned that word testing. So, and I also mentioned that earlier that a lot of people are not getting tested for STDs, in general. If you do have health insurance, they can help with that, Planned Parenthood. And yes, you can go to a legitimate clinic and pay out of pocket, a couple $100, get a full panel test. But let me give you guys some insight, okay? And this is coming from somebody who has had unprotected sex with girlfriends before. And I'll tell you, every single girlfriend that I've had that with, we sat down and had a conversation, and we were like, we are both getting tested. Now, I pay for their test. We're both getting tested, and we have to get tested after 4 weeks of being with each other. And then after that, if it's clean, then we can do without the condoms, right? So let me tell you why I say 4 weeks. You guys have to understand that it takes about 3 to 4 weeks for herpes, HIV, what's the other, syphilis, whatever it's called, that new one that just came out a few years ago. it takes time for it to incubate. So if you guys are out here jumping to a clinic after a night of a one night stand scare or something like that, and you're thinking, oh, I had sex with a girl last night, let me go to the clinic right now, get tested for STDs, it's gonna be a false negative. Okay, so you have to wait for it to incubate in your body, and it takes, they say you should wait 4 weeks minimum, 4 to 5 weeks for it to incubate in your body. Okay, I hope you guys are understanding what I'm saying. If you guys are out here just taking these random tests and you think you're negative, but you're actually not because you didn't wait long enough. So that's something you really have to understand when it comes to STDs and just your body in general. You can't just jump to shit and be like, let me just go get tested right after you just had sex. That's not how it works. So also, that being said, it's best that you, if you really need to have sex without a condom, I would recommend doing what I did. Just get in a relationship with one of these women or one of these guys. Be around them for at least 4 to 5, maybe 6 weeks. Get to really understand them. And then y'all get tested together. You know?
Those stigmas, can you give our viewers some examples of what that looks like?
I think we all are all aware when we think about HIV, the stigma that we all may hold or understand that is held by others. This idea that there is something wrong with someone or something wrong with a population or something that they deserve or whatnot. I think that stigma, unfortunately, is being propagated by a lot of the rhetoric going around across the federal and local levels in many parts of the country.
Slightly related to that, in February, the Trump administration announced millions of dollars in cuts to
We're talking about Trump.
public health programs, including for HIV prevention. What impact can that have in some of this rise in cases?
So they're cutting money for HIV prevention. Okay, like I just said, the best way to prevent this is just not having fucking sex.
Yeah, I think that's probably the what keeps all us up at night. These numbers are occurring at a time when HIV was fully funded, when programming for HIV both at the CDC level and at the DHH level were fully funded. And now we're facing sort of ongoing budget cuts year after year over the past 18 months. And we will only see these numbers continue to rise and impact other populations as well.
Dr. Anu, as we're seeing these numbers rise, what does success look like with the numbers heading in the opposite direction?
I think a lot of it is investing, again, in preventative care, preventative options around HIV. There are wildly successful medications that can prevent HIV, that we have the ability to end the epidemic medically and socially. Today, we have had the tools to do so for a very long time. It's implementing these in a way that makes sense for the communities that are impacted by this. That is the biggest sort of rub. And only by investing in these communities, investing in these programs, can we actually make a difference.
And if somebody at home is maybe thinking about getting tested and they don't know where to go from here, what would you say to them?
There are so many great options in the city of Chicago. You know, I would focus on health systems like Howard Brown Health, many of the academic medical centers include, and then resources like AIDS Foundation Chicago.
All right, I think we kind of heard enough, man. HIV is on the rise. This is just Chicago, but it's happening all over the world, y'all. All over the world. All over. So, bro, the best way to prevent it, and I'm not really mad at Trump cutting that shit, you know? Now, if he's cutting treatments, then yeah, that's a problem. But if he's cutting like preventative care, bro, common sense to tell you just stop having sex, nigga. The fuck's wrong with y'all?